Hey guys, we're back. It's Thursday. My hair it's not a good hair day, but whatever. Here we are. We have an important topic today. I sat with Archangel Michael before I started to hit record. I was like, what do we need to talk about today? And it came in loud and clear. And hi, if you're new, I'm Kate the Angel Medium. I channel Archangel Michael and all the angels of the highest Christed light. I do this because I love this. I'm very passionate about this. Archangel Michael came into my life at probably the darkest moment of my life. And I'm here because I listened. And I hope you guys will listen too. I'm very grateful for the position that I'm in. I still am not jaded by this in any way. I still freak out and love all the comments that you guys leave when things resonate with you. I think it's the coolest thing in the world that Archangel Michael has chosen me to communicate with all of you guys. I love my angels. I know you love angels, otherwise you wouldn't be here. But we are talking about something incredibly, incredibly important today, and that's boundaries. Because a lot of you are struggling with boundaries, or you're learning to have boundaries for the very first time in your life. And what came through loud and clear is understanding that one, you're allowed to have boundaries, you're worthy of boundaries, and that boundaries are there for you. They're not for the other person. They're there because if you do not have boundaries, you will never recover from people pleasing. You will never prioritize yourself. And you will never have the energy you need to create the life with the help of your angels you've always dreamed of. It's bottom line. This is non-negotiable. You can't skip this step. It's one of those things in your journey or the process of perfecting yourself or mastering yourself that you just can't skip. I promise you, I always wanted to be overly empathetic, compassionate. I wanted to always kind of prioritize everyone over me. And in the process, I would always lose myself because that's what happens. If you don't know where you end and where others begin, you will lose yourself. It's why so many times mothers especially, and I know this from personal experience, we struggle with boundaries because we've been taught to always put the needs of our children first, and that our only validation comes from what kind of mother we are. But I have become a better mother as I prioritized myself first. Because now it's more about the quality that I put into my kids, because my kids would rather have happy, healthy, vibrant mom that is full of love and energy to pour back into them. And the only way that I can have that is by prioritizing myself. I'm sure you've heard many other people say this analogy. I will say it as well. When you're on an airplane, if a crisis ensues, we always put our own mask on first. There's no way around this. See, the reason why so many of you have a hard time with having boundaries is because from a young age, you had to compromise your boundaries, especially with your parents, with siblings. Anytime you try to be sovereign or have boundaries, you were always met with consequences, or you were met with people that didn't respect your boundaries, and you were in a position where you could cut them off because maybe you felt like you couldn't because it was a parent and you were a kid, or it was from a friend and you were so afraid of not having friends that you would accept bad behavior. But we're going to change all of that today. See, at the very end of the day, if you do not have boundaries, you cannot be a baddie. It is what it is. I look at boundaries like they are the most precious thing to me. Because here's one thing that I thought I had boundaries for years. I thought I was a baddie. I thought I had baddie boundaries until I realized I didn't, because my boundaries were always negotiable. Nobody respected my boundaries because I didn't respect my boundaries. I'll give you an example. My husband knows that I like to go to bed every single night at 10 p.m. because I'm up early with my kids. But every time that 10 p.m. would come around, he'd be like, let's watch one more episode of whatever we were watching. And he would try to convince me. I'd be like, fine, okay, I guess, just one more episode. And then one more episode would turn into 2 episodes. And before I know it, it's like almost midnight. I'm exhausted. But here's the problem. I kept blaming him, like he didn't respect my boundaries. Why would he respect my boundaries if I don't even respect my boundaries? You can't have boundaries that you are able or that you allow people to negotiate with you. Now he knows 10 p.m. comes around, I'm going to bed. You can't convince me of nothing. This is my standard. This is my policy. 10 p.m. rolls around, I'm going to bed. I'm going to bed. It is what it is. And now that's a minor standard, okay? But here's another example. I do not lend money to people because I have been taken advantage of many times before, whether it was former friends, family, whatever. I have a policy that I do not lend money to people. Now, I do hire people for odd jobs. I do donate money to places, or I will help people out. Or if they need something, I will probably buy it for them if I'm in the position to do it. But I'm not going to hand you over money or you come to me and say, let me borrow $100. I'm going to say, no, that is my standard. That is my policy. Because in the past, people would say, oh, let me borrow $20, let me borrow $100. And I'd be like, no, not this time. But then they were compromising. And it would always become an issue until they started to realize, oh, she just doesn't lend money. But I can come to her and say, hey, do you have any jobs for me? Yeah, I might have a job for you. Because I'm not somebody's bank. I'm a very giving, generous person, but I'm not going to be someone's bank because that doesn't help anybody. That enables people. That doesn't, obviously there's exceptions to every rule, but I'm trying to make a point. I once had somebody that I hired she cleaned my house and she would watch my dogs. And I told her from day one that this is how I work. Okay. I will always pay you for your job. I do not pay ahead of time. I will pay, there's no wiggle room. You do the service, you get paid. Okay. You do the service, you get paid. That is my policy. But she would kept coming to me and saying, hey, is there any way you hadn't even come to my house? It'd be the day before. And she'd be like, can you front me this? Can you front me that? I did it one time, and that's where I made this mistake. Because the one time I did it, she now had opened the door where it was now my boundary was negotiable. And so now she asks all the time, as opposed to before, she wasn't as bold because the policy was there. But she made up some excuse, something terrible had happened, and she tugged at my heartstrings, and she's like, I really need this, I really need this. I should have said no. Because then I set precedents that now my boundaries were negotiable, which means you might as well not have a boundary at all. Because people will always test your boundary, and it's up to you to make sure that that wall is strong and that they know that they can't cross it at all. It's just like in a relationship, if your boundary is for someone to be faithful, there is no forgiveness if they cross that line. You cut them off. Because 99% of the time, sure, there's exceptions to every rule, but mostly not. Unless somebody is going to lose you, they're not going to respect you in that place. Because if you show them, you set precedents that your boundary is negotiable, oh, she'll just get over it, or he'll just get over it. You've now shown them that your boundary is negotiable, which, like I said, means you don't have a boundary at all. You don't have a boundary at all. That's why you have to look at your boundaries like they are the most precious and exclusive piece of anything that you own. And it is up to you to maintain them at all times. And what do I mean by maintain them? Is that every single time that somebody tests it or pokes that wall, you stand tall in your boundary. Because if you don't stand for something, you don't stand for anything. And it really is all about you. Because your boundaries have nothing to do with anybody but you. And the only people who have a problem with you having boundaries are the people that were already benefiting from you not having any boundaries, or the people that were hoping to benefit from you not having boundaries. So yeah, when I had to let this person go at the end of the day, for many other reasons, it wasn't a healthy fit anymore. Was I a terrible person? I was a terrible person. Fine. I don't care at the end of the day, because I know that I stood to my standards and my policies. And because you didn't respect what I laid out there when I hired you to do a service, that is on you. That is not my responsibility. And when you say to people that you have access to my energy as long as you respect these boundaries. And they don't respect their boundaries, it is not your fault that they no longer have any access to your energy at all. Because it is the decision they made. Because here's the thing. If they had respected you and respected your boundaries, they would still have access to you. Let's say you have an uncle that every single time he comes over drunk, and he's belligerent and he's nasty and he's awful. And you say, the only way that you're allowed to come to my house is if you're sober. Simple. No big deal, really. It's not a big, tall order to ask at the end of the day. But the first time he comes over after you say that, and he comes over and he's got a beer in his hand because he's testing your boundaries, how you react in that moment is going to set precedence for how he always respects your boundaries. You don't want your belligerent uncle in your home. You don't have to have your belligerent uncle in your home. And I'm telling you right now, family does not get the privilege of testing your boundaries. If anything, your family should be respecting your boundaries more than anyone, because they should be loving you and honoring your emotions and your physical and spiritual needs. So if they can't respect your boundaries, especially if they're your family, you have to keep them in line. And here's the thing, there will be people in your life that you might have to constantly remind them of your boundaries. And if you choose that because you have to constantly remind them of your boundaries, that you don't want them in your life just because you constantly have to remind them, that's enough reason if you do not want to have to deal with it anymore. I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down. You may not be the problem, but you are the only one that holds the key to the solution. No one else. Most people are not going to respect you unless you respect yourself. Because you're setting precedent on what you believe you deserve. I'm going to say that again. You are setting a precedent on how people should respect you by how they see you respect yourself. If I see a woman who's constantly investing in her appearance and what she eats and what she does, right? I'm going to look at her differently. I'm going to look at her like, wow, okay, I see you. Hell yeah. Get it, girl. As opposed to if I see a woman who has lost herself along the way, I'm not going to pity her or look at her any differently. But I'm also going to know immediately that she doesn't respect herself. Because here's the thing. People, and this is going to be really hard, but I need you to listen to this because I just know that so many of you need to hear this right now. People with no boundaries who are insecure are some of the most dangerous people you could ever surround yourself with. And some of them, that might be you. Because that used to be me. And you know how I know that they're the most dangerous people in the world? Because they will always abandon you. Because they abandon themselves every day. If they can't hold true to themselves, they cannot hold true to you. They can't. The bone that's on, they don't possess it. That programming in their brain does not exist. So you're expecting something from someone that they do not have. An insecure person thinks so little of themselves. They do not have the capacity to honor and respect anyone else because they do not honor and respect themselves. That is not inside of them. That is why so many insecure people go out of their way to break other people down to make themselves feel better about themselves. It's why they're always so in competition with everybody else, because they want to prove to themselves that they're not that bad. But in reality, because they're spending more time in breaking you down instead of building themselves up, they are some of the most dangerous people you can surround yourself with. Literally. It's like the girlfriend, right? Who's so incredibly insecure, who is always looking for outside validation. And because she's always willing to abandon herself, you can't bring your partner around them because you're so afraid that she might do something. And then on top of it, you're probably dating an insecure person who might entertain it. You can't date them, you can't save them, and you can't be one. If you want to be happy and fulfilled and safe emotionally, you cannot skip this step. I'm saying it with all the love in the world. I'm doing it because I want more for you, and I was that person. When I was incredibly insecure, I would accept bad behavior because I didn't believe I deserved more. I was so afraid of being rejected or abandoned that I constantly rejected and abandoned myself. I accepted domestic violence. I accepted partners that cheated. I accepted partners that were emotionally unavailable. I accepted relationships with siblings and parents that were narcissistic and did not value me because I did not value myself. Now, did I create that? No. Is it my fault I didn't value myself? No. I came from an incredibly toxic and abusive environment that then was perpetuated into my teens and 20s and even 30s because I was in very terrible, terrible relationships. Every single man I had ever been with, emotionally or mentally or romantically, abused me before my husband. Every single partner or boyfriend I had and husband and everybody that I was romantically involved with was domestically violent with me until I finally said enough is enough. And I said, enough is enough. And I said, I will never, ever allow this behavior ever again. And I decided in that moment that I was changing my life. Now I'll be so for real. I did not do it for me. I did not do it for me at first. I did it for my kids. I did it for my kids because I said to myself, I am not going to put this generational curse onto them. I refused because my parents put it on my back and I refuse to put it on theirs. So it started out for them. It has evolved into for me. And I've never been happier. My marriage is solid. My kids are thriving. I live in a beautiful home. I drive a beautiful car. We vacation, we do all the things. Life is good. I am grateful. I am happy. My kids are happy, which is everything to me. I have a man in my life that loves my children like they were his own. Because I had standards, I had values, I had expectations. I said to myself, I would never ever date a man that did not love my kids like his own. I would never be attracted to a man who did not look at my babies like they were the coolest thing in the world, because that's how I feel about them. And I wasn't going to accept anything less. And I didn't. Because I don't expect anything less from myself. And I'm not going to surround myself with people or put myself in situations at all where I have to lower my standards in any way. And I don't want you to either. But you have to make that decision today, right now. Who are you? What do you stand for? What kind of boundaries are you going to implement today so that going forward, you can have the life you want? Because you can put all the work in, but if you keep letting everybody steal your joy, steal your energy, or treat you poorly, it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen, okay? I love you guys so much. I know this was a little bit of a tough one, but we do real work here. And I'm gonna tell you the truth every single time, because I know most spiritual mentors and most angel guides, mediums, they're feeding you fluff, and I refuse to, because Archangel Michael wouldn't let me anyways, because we are here to truly, truly give you back the power that you've been giving to everyone else, because it is yours and you deserve it. And I'm going to leave you like this, just a question, something to ponder, okay? Because you really need to hear this truth bomb. How do you think that negative energies and harmful energies would infiltrate the spiritual space? Think about that. By making you feel powerless. By making you feel like you should constantly be forgiving those who do not deserve your forgiveness. Think about that. Because I promise you this, since you found me, I know I've changed your life. And we ain't even scratched the surface yet. I love you guys. Check out the description box below and make sure you like and comment, because we have a movement. We have a movement, and we're about to change the world together. I love you.